car prices are setting a new record. A new report shows the average price for a new car is more than $50,000 for the first time ever. Economists say it's one of many signs of a K-shaped economy, meaning different parts of the economy are recovering at different rates.
For the first time, the average cost of a new car in the US has topped $50,000. That is in part down to tariffs, with experts warning of an even bigger hit on prices next year. Matt Egan.
Tonight, we begin with a number that should make every driver stop and think: $50,000. That's now the average price of a brand new car in the United States. Once, that kind of price tag meant you were buying something special: a luxury badge, leather seats, high-end sound system. But today, that's just the cost of entry. Across the country, the affordable family car has become an endangered species. Dealerships that once sold sedans under $25,000 now start at double that. So what happened? Why are ordinary Americans being priced out of their own driveways? And how did tariffs, electric cars, and global politics quietly rewrite what normal means for the auto market? Let's break it down. According to the latest report from Kelley Blue Book, the average transaction price for a new vehicle in the U.S. hit an all-time high in September 2024, just over $50,000. That's up 3.6% from the year before, the sharpest annual increase since early 2023. Even the manufacturer's suggested retail price, the number you see on that shiny window sticker, broke a record of its own, averaging around $52,183. And here's the kicker. More than 60 new car models now sell for over $75,000 on average. The once common $20,000 car, it's practically gone. The American new car market is no longer defined by affordability. It's being driven by wealthier buyers, luxury trucks, and electric vehicles with price tags that look more like mortgages. Experts say three major forces are behind this surge, and they reshaping the auto landscape faster than most people realize. First, luxury and electric vehicle demand. Americans aren't just buying more cars, they're buying more expensive ones. High-end SUVs, pickup trucks, and electric vehicles now make up a growing share of total sales. Cox Automotive calls it a rich mix, a blend of luxury models and premium EVs that naturally lifts the overall average price. In September 2024 alone, EVs captured a record 11.6% of all new car sales. That's more than double what it was just a few years ago. Many buyers rushed to buy before certain federal EV tax credits expired, which mostly applied to higher-end models. In short, the more consumers chase those incentives, the more they end up buying vehicles that cost $60,000 or $70,000 out the door. And because EVs often require expensive batteries, advanced electronics, and new manufacturing techniques, their sticker prices remain high, even before the government steps in. The second, and arguably most powerful factor, is trade policy. A new wave of tariffs, economic weapons in disguise, is quietly adding thousands to every new vehicle's cost. In April 2025, the Trump administration imposed a sweeping 25% tariff on all imported cars and trucks. A month later, the same 25% tariff hit many auto parts coming into the country. It's the largest such levy since World War II. To put that in perspective, if you're buying a $40,000 car, those tariffs could add up to $6,000 to the final price, according to Kelley Blue Book estimates. And it doesn't stop at vehicles. Every foreign-made transmission, battery pack, or circuit board entering the U.S. now carries a 25% surcharge. Even cars assembled in America can be affected if they use imported parts. China, of course, responded. Beijing has imposed its own duties on U.S. auto imports, at times raising rates as high as 40%. This tit-for-tat trade war means costs keep climbing on both sides, and ordinary buyers are footing the bill. Economists call it tariff inflation. The policy may protect American manufacturing on paper, but in practice it inflates prices throughout the global supply chain. The third major pressure point is the supply chain hangover from the pandemic years. Chip shortages, shipping delays, and parts bottlenecks never fully disappeared. Even as factories reopen, automakers are still catching up, and that means fewer cars on lots. When supply's tight, dealers don't need to discount. Instead, they can charge more and still sell out. That's exactly what's happening. Cox Automotive's senior analyst Aaron Keating puts it simply: price-conscious buyers are staying on the sidelines, and wealthier households are driving the upper end of the market. that shift creates a feedback loop. Because fewer affordable models are being built or stocked, the overall average price rises even higher. So, to sum it up so far, luxury and EV demand push the market upward. Tariffs magnify production costs, and tight inventory gives dealers the power to charge whatever the market will bear. Altogether, they've made the $50,000 car not an exception, but the rule. But there's another layer to this story, and it's political. Behind these rising prices lies a tug-of-war between Washington and Beijing, one that could reshape not just car prices, but the future of manufacturing itself. Let's dig deeper. Trade tensions have become one of the most powerful forces in the global auto market. In April 2025, the United States introduced that historic 25% tariff on imports. By May, it extended to auto parts, everything from steering systems to lithium cells. Kelley Blue Book called it plainly, "With tariffs, car prices will increase for American car buyers." Their consumer guide even advised drivers to lock in deals now before the price hikes take effect. Forbes' analysis of the same data suggested new tariffs could raise the price of vehicles under $40,000 by as much as $6,000. That alone wipes out years of wage growth for average buyers. Meanwhile, China, still the world's largest auto producer, hit back. During the 2018-2019 trade war, Beijing imposed tariffs on $50 billion worth of U.S. goods, including cars. At one point, it set a 40% duty on American vehicles while cutting rates for European brands to 15%. That made U.S. cars like Tesla and Jeep far less competitive in China. And now the cycle is repeating. Reports say the U.S. has added a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, first introduced under President Biden in 2024 and continued by the Trump administration in 2025. The goal is to shield American EV manufacturers from cheap Chinese imports. But the result is fewer options and higher prices for consumers. Industry leaders warn the situation is already changing global trade flows. China 8S Automobile Manufacturers Association said Trump's tariff hikes could have a disastrous impact on Chinese exports to Asia and Europe. In response, major U.S. brands are rethinking their supply chains. Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram, announced a $13 billion investment plan in the United States. Their goal? Shift production home, create jobs, and offset tariff expenses. But even they estimate these trade policies could cost the company $1.7 billion in 2025 alone. This isn't just a clash of politics, it's an economic earthquake. When two superpowers turn their auto industries into battlegrounds, the shockwaves ripple down to every consumer showroom in America. And we haven't even touched on the impact this has on ordinary buyers, the people trying to replace a family car or get their first vehicle after college. When prices hit $50,000 and keep climbing, the question is no longer what to buy, it's whether you can buy at all. In the second half of this report, we'll explore how these tariffs and trade policies are reshaping consumer behavior, how automakers are adapting, and what analysts believe is coming next for the world's largest car market. Stay with us, because this story is about more than cars. It's about the future of the American middle class. For the average American car buyer, the result of all these economic battles is simple: pain at the dealership. A decade ago, a $50,000 price tag meant luxury, maybe a Lexus, a high-end SUV, or a fully loaded pickup. Now it's the price of a base-model electric vehicle or a mid-tier family SUV. Buyers are walking into showrooms and realizing the math doesn't work anymore. A 10% down payment that once meant $3,000 now means $5,000 or more. Monthly payments are climbing past $900, even for standard models. Cox Automotive calls this a market driven by wealthier households. Those with strong credit and higher income are keeping the new car industry alive. Everyone else is being pushed toward used cars, where supply remains tight and prices, ironically, are also elevated because demand shifted downward. In cities like Dallas, Chicago, and Phoenix, dealers report a growing gap between those who can still buy new and those who can't. Many working families are holding on to older vehicles longer, repairing rather than replacing, a trend that's quietly reshaping the used car and parts industry too. And while electric cars promise long-term savings, their upfront cost and limited charging infrastructure keep them out of reach for millions of households. In short, America's car market has split in two: the wealthy, who can absorb rising costs, and everyone else who can't. Automakers are scrambling to adapt. Companies like Stellantis are investing billions to move production back to U.S. soil, not out of patriotism, but survival. Every imported part now carries a tariff premium. Domestic manufacturing helps offset that, but building factories takes years and costs themselves are enormous. Meanwhile, foreign automakers are reassessing their U.S. strategies. Japanese and Korean brands, once the symbol of affordable quality, are warning that tariffs could force them to raise prices or cut U.S. allocations altogether. Even European automakers like Volkswagen and BMW are feeling the heat. Both rely heavily on parts sourced from Asia, meaning even vehicles assembled in the U.S. can trigger tariff surcharges if components originate overseas. Industry economists warn that by the end of 2025, the combined effect of trade wars could add $100 billion in extra costs across global automakers. That's not a typo, $100 billion in added expense, much of which will flow straight into vehicle prices. And for now, Washington's policy direction remains firm. Tariffs are being defended as tools to protect American jobs. But in practice, the burden lands on consumers, not corporations. As one analyst at Moody's put it, tariffs may protect factories, but they don't protect wallets. The political debate around tariffs has become as fierce as the trade war itself. Supporters of the Trump administration's policy argue that decades of globalization hollowed out U.S. manufacturing and that tariffs are the only way to bring production back. They point to Stellantis' new investments as proof that it's working. Critics, however, say it's a costly illusion. By raising prices across the board, tariffs risk slowing consumer spending, one of the key engines of the U.S. economy. The International Monetary Fund recently warned that renewed trade friction between the U.S. and China could shave 0.5% off global GDP growth this year. Wall Street agrees. When tariff announcements were made, major indexes fell sharply. The Dow dropped over 500 points in a single day after Trump's remarks on hostile China and his pledge to fight fire with fire. Goldman Sachs analysts estimate that over 55% of new tariff costs will ultimately be paid by American consumers, either through higher sticker prices or inflation across related goods like auto insurance and maintenance. Even allies abroad are uneasy. European Union officials have urged restraint, fearing that a full-scale tariff war could spill into sectors like energy, electronics, and steel. Meanwhile, Beijing continues to strike a defiant tone, calling Washington's policies economic aggression, while quietly expanding trade partnerships with nations in Africa and Southeast Asia. So what comes next? Analysts say 3 paths are possible, and each leads to a very different kind of auto market. Scenario 1, trade negotiations ease tensions. If U.S. and China reach even a limited agreement, some tariffs could be rolled back, easing production costs and stabilizing prices. That's the optimistic case, but few economists expect it soon. Scenario 2, tariffs persist. If the current policies hold, new vehicle prices could rise another 5 to 8% over the next year. The average could hit $54,000 by late 2025, according to projections by Kelley Blue Book and Cox Automotive. That would officially make new car ownership the most expensive in American history. Scenario 3, the market adapts slowly. Automakers may double down on domestic production, automation, and cost-saving technologies. That shift could take years, but might eventually balance prices again, especially if EV manufacturing scales up locally. However, the short term looks painful. Dealers warn that even if interest rates drop, high vehicle costs will continue to limit who can buy new cars. The affordability crisis in auto ownership isn't just about metal and wheels, it's about access to the modern American lifestyle. A reliable car has always symbolized freedom, mobility, independence. But for many, that freedom is slipping away, priced out by global politics and economic realities beyond their control. So the next time you drive past a dealership and see those sticker prices, remember, they're not just numbers. They're a reflection of tariffs, trade wars, global power struggles, and shifting technology. They tell a story about who gets to move forward and who gets left behind. And unless something changes, the $50,000 car may soon become the starting point, not the peak of America's automotive future. I'm your channel name, and this has been your in-depth look into the rising cost of American cars. If you found this analysis useful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because what happens next on the world's highways may redefine the global economy itself.